Welcome to Technically Short with Sean and
Thomas. All right, guys, how's it going? So we didn't mention this before. We decided this kind of a spur of the moment thing, but this is the first episode of our Perfectly Imperfect series.
brand new series.
It's a series on excellence and growth, and we actually just to start it off. We have a special guest, and there'll be a lot of special guests, hopefully, within this whole series. We have Mikayla Mosley, Paradox and Perspective.
Hi! Oh my gosh, I'm so honored to be here, honestly. I was looking forward to this all day. I was getting through my shift. I was like, it's okay. Later, I'm going to go podcast with Thomas and Sean. I'm honored to be here and be a guest, and especially kicking off this series. I'm honored. And I'm really excited for today's episode. So yeah.
Awesome. The way I'm excited that you were excited, because I was the start of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I started this series. I won't go through how I came up with the idea right now, because I could go on for a bit. But guys, it hit me like a rock to do this.
Yeah. And
I brought it up to Sean and Mikayla. Sean and Mikayla. For the first thing, I thought that was wrong. And they're like, "Yeah, let's do it. Love it." I was like, "Okay." And so then I had to I don't know, it was great. But the way I like to technically intro a guest after your intro is a little bit of exaltation of who I see you to be, who Sean sees you to be. And then we'll go on from there.
Okay, sick.
So, if you do or you don't know Mikayla, the way I see her is I have it written down. I wrote the first words that popped in my head were integrity, consistency, and a fantastic speaker.
That is so kind. Oh my gosh.
And through all of that, the love that you have for God is obvious.
Yeah. Guys, stop already? This is so kind already. Okay, sorry. Let me shut up. Okay.
No, you're good. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, the way I describe Mikayla, I would say she has integrity. I also love that. She's funny, wise, anointed, and just amazing. So we'll just put that.
Oh my god, guys, that's so nice. Especially since I'm definitely a words of affirmation person. I'm this is great. I'm loving this. Oh my gosh, thank you guys. That's so kind.
Of course. And so, Mikayla, just for the people who might not know you too well, why don't you give a 30 to 60-second intro of who you are?
Okay, yeah. So, my name is Mikayla Mosley. I am 22, and I'm just, a girl who really loves Jesus, and I just love him, and my life is completely devoted to him, and I like to travel, I like to have fun, I love people, I love doing new things, and I love just growing and being stretched. So I have a podcast that I started at the beginning of the year called Paradox and Perspective, which you guys already mentioned. I do that. I have 2 part-time jobs, and I then volunteer with our church, Imperfect Church. We all go to church together. And yeah, I just love what I do. I'm serving on a couple different teams, and all of them, I'm these are all so great that I'm loving it. So that's me. Currently in Pittsburgh. I don't know for how long. It's kind of my personality to move around. That's just always my relationship with the Lord is I'll go where you tell me to go. And he's okay, cool. So I don't really stay in the same place for too long, but so whenever the Lord's all right, go there, I'm okay, cool, let's do it. So yeah, I'm just here for the adventure, whatever he's going to do in my life and however he wants me to move.
That's awesome.
That's definitely good stuff.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And so we're going to link her podcast in the show notes.
Thanks, guys.
Just make sure you give her 5 stars.
5 stars. Only 5 stars, please.
helps the rate. Well, obviously helps the ratings.
That's right.
But speaking of the podcast,
Mhm.
one of the ones I had Sean and I both kind of pick out one or two.
Yeah.
And to get to re-listen to.
Yeah.
The one that spoke, I just kind of was going through titles, like which title speaks to me the most.
Yeah.
And it was if I love what I do, am I doing enough?
Mm-hmm.
And
So good.
this being a series on excellence
Yeah.
and growth, and you saying you are a person who loves to grow.
Mm-hmm.
In that you talked about ministry and how you see yourself in ministry,
Mm-hmm.
and how ministry is in all that we do.
Yeah.
So first, there's this two-part.
Mm-hmm.
First, what is your ministry?
Mm-hmm.
And two, how do you strive for excellence in it?
Yeah. Okay, so that first question is a kind of like loaded question because you're like, well, what is ministry? And it's like, ministry can be very specific things, but it's also like we're called to live a life of ministry.
Right.
So I kind of see it in like two different ways. So the specific things, like if we're just talking about ministry within the church,
Mm-hmm.
what I do there, I help run our social media for Inspire Collective, which is our college ministry. So I do that. I also am a small group lead for Inspire Collective, and I am on host team for our city 6 p.m. service. So that's my ministry, like within the church.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think ministry just goes like so far outside of that as well. So I feel like my ministry in my day-to-day life is to love people in a way that reflects Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And just like lean into love and like listen to people. And I think my heart is, I want to like help people see Jesus for who he really is instead of like who they maybe perceived him to be, or maybe like somebody has told them that he is. That's like a misrepresentation. Like I feel like my personal ministry day to day is just like, I want to show you who like I know Jesus is. And he's not this like condemning like God or like, like he's not like a condemning kind of like God that's like, you have to follow this, and this rule. And that I think is what so many people think, like Jesus is. And I'm like, it's not about that. Like, let me just show you who he is. Like, let me show you like how my life's been better because of him. So I feel like that's my ministry every day. Just like, let me like show you love so I can like show you Jesus. And I think the Bible, it says that it's like they will know him by the way that we love. So it's like, well, if I'm loving people, then like, it only reflects to him because he's the creator of love, you know?
Yeah.
So the second part of your question was, can you repeat it one more time?
Yeah. How do you strive for excellence in it?
I was actually thinking about this before, because I was rereading when you texted me, like, this whole topic. Also, it was actually really funny that you said that when you texted and you were like, hey, I think this is what we should talk about. Like, it hit me out of nowhere because on Sunday we were at church and I happened to turn around and we were like in worship and everyone's standing, and I look over and Thomas is like on the floor like writing notes. I was like, oh wow. I was like, the Lord just gave a word to Thomas. I was like, I wonder what it is. And then I like forgot, because Sundays are always crazy. So when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So I think it was just cool that I got to see like the Lord downloading that word to you as well. So anyway, I was going back to the text that you sent about like talking about excellence, and I was thinking about it, and I was like striving for excellence. And I would say my strategy and like how I achieve, I say like loosely. Yeah. Because I think we're all like growing and changing. But my strategy is to not strive, but it's just like seek. Mm-hmm. And that's actually something that the Lord has really repeated to me, especially this past year. The Lord speaks to me through like repetition. So I've said this before on my podcast and just to like friends, but like the Lord says something once, it's like, okay. And if he says it again, it'll like catch my attention. But if he says it a third time, I write it down because I'm like, okay, I know this is something. Last year he spoke a verse to me over 50 times. Yeah. This year it was another verse, and it's been like over 50 times at this point. And it's Matthew 6:33, which is like, seek first his kingdom and all these things will be added to you. And I'm like, okay, that's a good verse, but like, Lord, why are you repeating that to me? You know, like there's so many other verses in the Bible. And he's really shown me this year what that looks like to seek him. Yeah. And that was the first thing I thought about. I was like, well, if I'm striving, then it's like I'm striving out of like my own effort to like achieve excellence. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, if it's out of me, I can't really achieve like what he wants me to do, because it's like kind of self-seeking in a way, if that makes sense. It's like, well, I want to do this and I want to strive so I can prove this about myself. But it's like, if I'm seeking just to serve him, then it's going to happen. And I think that's not to say, like, well, just don't try in anything. Just, like, seek the Lord. Because I think there's a difference between, like, us striving and striving and striving, and then also just like, seeking the Lord. And it's not to say, like, you should just sit back and you don't have any responsibility, so don't strive for it. I think we're called to, like, operate in excellence in, like, everything that we do, just as, like, Christ followers. But, yeah, I think my posture is just, like, Lord, I want to seek you.
Yeah.
And if I'm seeking you, I can't really go wrong. Do you know what I mean? So, obviously, I'm going to achieve what you want me to do if I'm just seeking you and I'm just seeking your heart. And that might not look like what I think excellence is going to necessarily look like. I would say, okay, to put it really practically. So, I help run, like, Inspire Collective social media, right? Yeah. So when you're running social media platforms like that, like Instagram, Facebook, whatever, you're obviously seeing your analytics, your insights, your likes, your comments, interactive, like, everything like that. And you're seeing that. And some might be like, well, you're only achieving and you're only, like, doing things with excellence if you're getting X amount of, like, this or that. And if that is my posture going into it, and I'm like, well, Lord, then this wasn't successful because this didn't get the right amount of likes, or it didn't get this amount of comments or shares that I thought or, like, wanted it to. It's like, okay, well, then I'm seeking what I think excellence looks like. Right. But for him, it might be like, excellence is I wanted that one person to see that. Yeah. Like, I didn't care about a multitude of people. I wanted that one person to see that. So excellence for me in that area specifically looks just like being consistent and, like, being obedient to, like, posting something or, like, keeping consistent on our page. Kendall showed me the other day, she got a notification that was like, this person, like, I guess Instagram will give notifications like, this person followed you off of your reel. And it's like, wow, a silly little video that we're doing or running around making videos is, like, showing people the heart of God. Yeah. And I'm like, if that's one person, we didn't get like 500 followers from that post. You know what I mean? And if I'm looking at it from a number standpoint, and I'm like, well, then I missed the mark and I didn't operate in excellence because I didn't get X amount of this or that. It's like, well, then I'm missing his heart. And his heart is to just, like, what does it say? Like, the Bible says he'll leave the 99 for the one. So it's like, I need to be focused on, like, the individual as well. So I think if I'm seeking it for my own, I'll be like, well, I'm going to fall short. But if I'm like, I'm okay with the fact that, like, our likes might be, like, this number or that number. It might not be what the big church is getting, but it's okay because I know because I'm seeking the heart of God that, like, that is excellence.
That's so good.
That's good. That's really good. I like those. I like these little, like, quick quips that are, like, easy to remember. And what I got from what you said is that if you're missing the heart, you're missing the mark.
Yeah. Ooh.
Well, that's so good.
That is good.
It's so good.
And, like, with excellent. I wrote it down, then you answered it. Yeah. I was like, what, like, in, like, its purest form, what is excellence?
Yeah.
And we can say this as Christians, like, striving for excellence is exactly what God wants us to do.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's not based off any rudimentary, like, thing that you can count.
Yeah.
It's like, a lot of the times whenever, keep this quick, like, a lot of times whenever, like, somebody is, like, wanting to start a business.
Yeah.
Or even, like, the same idea of social media, because every business right now uses social media.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's easy to get discouraged whenever you don't see those numbers high.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you set your own expectations of what excellence is.
Yeah.
You set your own definition. And when you set your own definition, like, your definition is more than likely wrong.
Yeah.
Because there is only one.
Yeah. That's so good. And I think that, like, so I've read the Bible through, and I'm not, like, a Bible scholar. I'm not going around and be like, I know word for word, like, the Bible front to back. But it's like, I've read it. Like, I don't think I've ever read in there where we are recommended or we are commanded to strive for anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's just not his heart, is to, like, strive and strive and strive. But it's just, like, surrender. Just, like, seek him. And again, that's not being like, oh, you're using the wrong terminology. Because it's like, yes, striving, I don't know. It's like striving, I think, can be taken out of context very easily. Yeah. And I think it's like, yes, striving for me looks like kind of like putting a goal. Like I have a goal and I'm like going towards it. So I'm like striving towards this goal. I'm like kind of like walking towards this goal. Like I'm moving towards it. But it's like, but what happens when that goal keeps moving forward and forward and forward?
Yeah.
And it's farther and farther and farther. And I'm like, okay, well now I have to come up with my own strength. But it's like, no, we're never called to do that. And I think especially when we do that in the church, especially when we're serving like within ministries in the church, whether that's like production or social media, parking lot team, whatever, when it becomes about like us striving to do something because it's like, well, if I do this every single week, then it's like, well, then I'm seen as excellent in the Lord's eyes. And if we're doing it for that reason and we're not doing it because we're just seeking him and seeking to serve him, well, then it becomes legalistic, which is like, that's what Jesus came to like get rid of. He's like, I don't want it to become legalistic. I don't want it to become just religion. And I think that's like still his heart. It's like, I don't want you to do this just because it's a checklist, just because it's like, well, if I'm serving in the church every week, then it's like, then he'll say to me like, well done, good and faithful servant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, just like seek me and like out of the abundance of your heart, like move and serve here. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that. Like, no, I think like that's been me. Like, Sean, I know you probably have a question, so I'll let you speak in a second. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good.
Like whenever I like think of like, and you guys are listeners are probably going to hear this again from me at some point, but like that's kind of been my like for me this has been a year of growth, and I feel like this current season of my life is like a season of exponential growth. And like the way I like John Maxwell in the one of the episodes that I listened to recently, he defined excellence as continuous growth. As the consistency compounds. Yeah. And so it's like, it's not trying to hit any particular mark. Yeah. It's just consistently focusing on growing who you are. Yeah. Because no matter where you're at, there's always room to grow. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's, like the one thing that popped in my mind where you're speaking, that'll be done for a second. He said this at some other point, like he made a very good point about himself. He was like, I stopped setting goals. He goes, I stopped setting goals. I never set goals. And he goes, I forget the words, but he said it the same thing in a different way recently in one of the episodes. He's like, I don't set goals. I just focus on growth. Because the goals I would have set would just fall in place. Yep, absolutely. So like, that's whenever I'm thinking like, we strive to like, be more like Jesus. Yeah. Strive to live that's not to an expectation. Yeah. But live to a hold ourselves up to that higher standard. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good way to put it too. It's like, okay, but what are you striving for? Right. Because it's like if you're striving for excellence, that's when I'm like, okay, that could get really tricky really quick. But it's like if you're striving to like look like Jesus, if you're striving to grow, like those are good things. You know what I mean? So it's good. Yeah.
Honestly, man, you guys nailed it. I was getting ready to ask a whole bunch of questions, but most of them have been answered. So, one of the questions I did have was like, how can you help somebody else raise their standard to bring it to excellence?
That's a good question. How can I help somebody else raise their standard to bring it to excellence? That's hard. Because I feel like standards are very personal, and I think that's something you have to seek the Lord on. So I'm like, my standard might look different from somebody else's, and I think that's okay. I think, yes, there's certain things that are like black and white, but it's like our relationship with Jesus is incredibly personal. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, what he could be calling me to is different than what he's calling you to. You know what I mean? But I think a good kind of like catch-all, and it sounds so cliche, but it's just like, ask him. Ask him. So it's like, Lord, like so something I've recently been doing as I'm like trying to grow, that's okay, as I'm trying to grow like podcast stuff or like my travel agency, whatever. I'm like, Lord, would you give me a deeper creativity to achieve what you want me to. And that's not like, Lord, help, like, give me this or that, or give me the creativity to get this goal. It's like, whatever you want the result to be, give me the creativity to do that. Whether it's something I normally do or it's something I've never thought of, like, would you give me the creativity to do that? And because I'm asking him for that and I'm seeking him for that, he's been showing me new ways. And it's like, oh, I didn't even realize that this growth was possible until, like, you showed me that. Yeah. And then it's like, then my standard just is going higher and higher and higher of, like, what I can do, what he can do. Yeah. Just because I'm like, he's doing new things in me. So I'd say, seek his heart, ask him, be like, Lord, would you give me creativity? Would you give me strategy to, like, achieve what you want, like, excellence to look like in my life? So.
Wow. Honestly, heavy hitter. She's killing it.
Oh my gosh.
Man. It's crazy. Me and Thomas didn't talk at all about the episodes we were going to pick, yet we picked one of those same episodes, which is the random probability of that would be like 1 in 1/16 or something.
Look at God.
Yeah, like, incredible. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. I think something else I was thinking about before, because I was just thinking about, like, the three of us. I think all of us serve a pretty high capacity, like, in the church. And that's where our church has this, it's not like a rule, but it's like a recommendation that's like, serve one, sit one. And it's because if you're serving and serving and serving, it's like, yes, serving is good. Yeah. But it's like, if you are just serving and you're not, like, sitting and receiving, then you're pouring out of an empty cup. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, again, it's becoming out of, like, well, I'm serving every week because I just know I'm supposed to. And it's like, okay, but, like, that's great. Yes, serve, but, like, also, like, you should be receiving. Like, he wants you to. You know what I mean? And, like, yes, it's a gift that we get to partner with him to serve and to do these things in excellence and to even have production for Inspire Collective. Like, I see that as excellence. You know what I mean? Like, that is a huge gift. And even, like, I see excellence in, like, our first impression scene. Like, that's what Sean does. Like, there is excellence when I look at that. And it's like, yes, that we have excellence in the church and in our ministries, but it's also a lot of our people who are serving are also receiving. And I think it needs to be like that rhythm, because if we're just, like, serving and serving and serving, it's like, okay, but what is the Lord doing in your heart? Because then, yes, you're serving, that's beautiful, but, like, are you allowing him to transform you, or you're just, like, stuck in, like, well, I just know I'm supposed to do this. It's like, great, you know you're supposed to serve, but, like, what else is he calling you to, like, learn and, like, do outside of serving as well, you know?
No, that's extremely personal to me.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. Because, like, I think I mentioned it before. Like, I had a year or so where I wasn't sitting in a service.
I think we talked about that, yeah.
And, like, because I was either doing production at East, and then before that to 10 a.m., and then I go to the 6 p.m., but I would serve Kidsman.
Yep.
I was doing that for over a year.
Yeah.
And because I was like, I just wanted to do everything I could.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then it got to a point where I was like, if I leave, there's a gap. It's like, and there's this one thing that is really good thing that someone said, but I think it worked on me in a good and a bad way.
Yeah.
I think it was Mandy, who used to lead Kidsman.
Okay.
Overall.
Yeah.
And it was a very great thing to say. She's like, I haven't sat in. She's like, I don't like the service because I'm leaving Kidsman.
Yeah.
But the reason, but she goes, I believe the reason I'm not in that room anymore, in that seat, is because now that seat's for somebody else. And, like, there's multiple ways that you can take that.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's really good. That's why I don't sit in service anymore. And I was like, yeah, wait.
Yeah, wait a minute.
And, like, it took, like, Pastor Christina, like, 5 or 6 times to tell me to stop serving in Kidsman for me to stop serving in Kidsman.
Yeah.
And, like, and it took, like, being around, like, people that saw that, and I was like, Thomas, you just need to sit. Like, I sat in the service on holidays.
Yeah.
When they didn't need me. And, like, I was never getting poured into.
Yep.
And I didn't really, this is what I'm supposed to use. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
This is what I love this. I love what I do. So, like, isn't that good?
Right. Yep. Now, I'm with you. Like, and yeah, I say all this, and then there's like times in my recently where I'm like, I'm doing too much. You know what I mean? Like, and these are all good things, and I love it all, but I'm also burnt out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's also not his heart and his design for me either. And it's like, it's not like anything I'm doing is like a bad thing where I'm like, okay, well, I can easily cut that out because it's the bad thing. And if I stop that, then it's like, then I get rid of a bad thing and I'm like not burnt out. It's like, no, all the things I'm involved in are good things.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, how do you cut out something good? And it's like, well, Lord, like if I cut out something good, it's like, yeah, like you said, like then there's a gap. And it's like, well, then if I leave, like who's going to serve there? And then like, well, this person's gonna be missing this, or like, then who's gonna say that, or like, you know what I mean? And it's just like, yes, we could put so much weight, but it's like at the same time, like, is the entire kingdom of heaven like dependent on you? No, it's not. You know, like it's a body.
Yeah.
We're like the body of Christ.
Yeah.
And it was not supposed to like be one person. It's not supposed to be one person like always serving production or kidsman or like on social media or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
we're supposed to be
sharing. There's like all parts of the body, and it's like it's not supposed to, one person stepping away should not break an entire ministry. Like that should not be what it comes down to. And it's like, if that is the case, where if like I leave, then the entire ministry crumbles. It's like, okay, but then it was built on me in the first place, and it wasn't really like built on Christ. And like if we don't have somebody to take that spot, let's start praying. Yeah. And he'll show up. Like he will provide somebody, because his heart is like, I don't want you to be burnt out. Yeah. So he can stand in agreement. So when we're like, Lord, would you send somebody else to like come join these teams? He's like, yeah, absolutely. Like that's something you could pray and like receive, because that's just my heart. And
like me, I my first thing that I would think to pray for would for strength to keep going.
Yeah. It's like our first response.
It's like, I don't want to quit. Yeah, but
also I would say that like maybe we gotta like do a better job as the church as a whole as like disciple, so that way it doesn't happen that way, because like the leader is supposed to disciple somebody else to take his spot.
Absolutely.
As a good leader, you know.
Yeah, and I think like just that kind of even ties everything in. Like that's what excellence looks like. You know what I mean? Excellence is not, that's just like a different level of it. It's not just what I can do, but it's like, okay, but what am I building? Like, it's not just what am I serving in, but like, what am I building? That like, what can somebody else come into? I think that, Mike Wallace, I will say, does a great job at this.
Oh yeah.
Like, absolutely. Yes, he serves the ministry, absolutely. Yeah. But he's also like building it. So like, if Mike were to ever have to step out, it's not like, oh my gosh, well, our ministry is going to be in shambles. Yeah. He has put it in such a great place where it's like somebody could easily step in because of the groundwork he has laid. You know, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
That's so good.
The one thing, I'm getting excited.
Sorry.
Sorry for what?
No, I love Sorry.
Whenever you say something, it's like these words pop in my head, and I have to write down something real quick.
Yep.
Otherwise, I can't. Otherwise, I'll forget. And the thing you were talking about, like these things are good that I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to like for me, it was I want to serve in kidsmen. That's a good thing. I want to serve on production, or it could be creative team, or it could be whatever. I want to serve. I want to be on the worship team. But if you, and all those things are good and like inherently good.
Yeah.
But whenever you're doing it to the detriment of yourself, then it becomes something bad.
Yeah.
And there's a saying, and I love it. It's the good is the enemy of the great.
Ooh. Ooh, say that one again. I think that one needs to simmer for a little bit.
The good is the enemy of great.
That is a great statement.
And like, I feel like for those people who's like, where it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What we're just talking about, like the things that are good. And if you're only filled up, if you're all your time, we only have a finite amount of time.
Yeah.
If all our stuff is just filled up with good things, then when is the great going to come into play?
Thomas, that was fire. Wait, that was so good. That just convicted me in a whole new way. That's so good. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's good. That is like practical too. That is good. It's like, and there's that very cliche saying, it's like too much of anything, like too much of a good thing is like a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it's like, that sounds so stupid, but it's like, no, it's like actually true.
Yeah. Very.
It's like, you know what is also a good thing? rest. Oh my gosh, crazy that like God literally created it, and we're like, well, let me fill with all like my time with all these other like good things, but it's like, but rest is also good, and rest is also like what He wants us to do as well. So yeah, that's good. Sorry, do you guys have anything else?
Sorry guys.
Sorry. Just processing.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we're not missing out on anything.
Okay, there's actually one more question I have written down here.
Let's hit it.
With growth and excellence, we kind of were talking about it a little bit. We touched on it a little bit. With growth and excellence comes sacrifice. Yeah. What is something you had to give up in order to experience growth?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Something I had to give up. Well, I think of two things specifically. So the first one is like my wants and like my desires and like my, like what I thought I wanted my life to look like and like my dreams. Like I had to sacrifice those. Yeah. And I want to be really careful with that because I think some people could take that and be like, well, God just doesn't want me to have what I want and like He wants me to like be unhappy. That's like not at all what I'm saying, but I had a very, very strong desire to move somewhere specifically, and that wasn't where the Lord had me. Yeah. And I had to lay down, and He gave me grace to do that. Yeah. But I had to lay down that desire to like pick up what He had, which was something else, and in that was growth. So I'll kind of touch on this quickly. It's a huge part of my testimony, but I had plans to move to Florida. For years. It was like all I wanted to do. The Lord ended up moving me to Texas. It was incredible. However, it was definitely the most shaping year of my life, like most refining year of my life. Like the Lord stripped things away, and that sucked. So I would say I had to sacrifice comfort, and I also just had to sacrifice like myself. If that like that's too broad. Like who I built myself to be. Yeah. I'm like, Lord, my prayer was, and when you pray prayers like this, He will respond, so be careful. I was like, Lord, just like rid me of anything that doesn't look like You, like, you know, replace it, take it away, like, I just want to like reflect You. And He did, but oh my gosh, was that painful. It was a lot of growing, a lot of me laying things down, the habits I had learned, different responses, like trauma responses I had that He had to strip away, but like with that comes bringing it up, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of things He had to work through, a lot of hurt, a lot of unmet expectations that I had. I had to lay those down, and I don't want to say that and make it sound like it was so great. Like, yes, He did all that, and I like felt great during it, and you know, it was really easy. Like, no, it sucked. Yeah. Like, it really sucked, and I was disappointed, and I was like I wasn't really like, I don't want to say mad at God, but I was just kind of like, Lord, like, are You who I think You are? And it just like really hurt, because He was stripping some things away, and now that I'm on the other side of that, not like we ever like fully arrived at growth, but now that I'm like, He's done that work, He's done that growth, I'm like, okay, well, now I can stand here and look back and say like, Lord, thank You for that. One, that Your will prevailed and it wasn't mine, because if it would have been mine, like all this stuff wouldn't have come out of this. Yeah. Thank You for the work that You did, and thank You that like the pain wasn't for nothing. Yeah. Like, and it never is with Him anyway. Like whenever, because my life is like devoted to Him, if I'm going through pain, it's not for nothing. Like it's for something. So yeah, comfort, like holding on to what I knew or like what was just comfortable to me, like had to get rid of that. Even I think starting a podcast, like that was comfort. Yup. I had to go out the window. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, well, I'm either going to be comfortable or I'm going to serve the Lord. So like, which one is it going to be? Yeah. And it's like, well, okay, well, let me step out and be uncomfortable. He'll meet me, but I've at least got to start stepping. And I think that's a huge thing. That kind of is not what the question was about, but it's like if you're waiting to have comfort before you step out, you're going to wait forever. Yeah. It's like He is there when you start stepping. So like start stepping and like He'll meet you like as you're comfortable. You got to start stepping. So yeah, that's my answer for that.
I honestly think that was so like well said. And I'm currently going to that stage right now where God is like stripping me. And then like, and I know what it's for, but it's also like, okay, So what do I have to sacrifice?
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you sacrificing, Sean? And God's lately has put, like, my calling, put that on the altar. You know, and that's, like, hard for me. It's like, but God, you said I'm going to be this. It's like, oh, I want to be this, and I want to be this. And God's like, you're making it an idol. So now I have to crush it. But it's going to grow if you give it to me.
Yeah.
And if you obsess over it, you will have no thriving, no success, none of that, because I will not be there. You know what I mean? It's like, so then, like, lately God's been putting, like, put the pastor thing on the altar. It's like, but God, please, this is what you call me. So that's where I've been at in my state of, like, sacrifice your calling and everything, because if you could get rid of all that to God, if you could give everything that you really were excited for, your desires. That was one of the episodes. The other episode I picked was your desires and distractions.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, like, if you sacrifice those desires for God and you sacrifice the calling for God, He will make it thrive.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's only good if it's given from Him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If, like, I'm doing it because of me, then it's like, okay, well, it might be, like, okay, but it's like, but there could be so much better. And I think of that, like, when I was trying to move to Florida, it's like, I could have done it because we have free will. So I'm like, I could have just done it and been like, no, I know you called me to Texas, but, like, I'm going to do what, like, I want to do. And I thought that, like, the Lord had called me to Florida. And I was going there, too. I was like, I have every reason to believe that you did. And He's like, no, I'm actually calling you here. Are you going to take it or not?
Yeah.
And I could have been like, well, Lord, I thought it was Florida, so I'm just going to go. And I'd been like, okay, cool, you could do that. And that might be, like, good, but, like, I've got better for you. So it's like, what are you gonna go with? So, yeah, that's good. I think it's, I don't know if it's, like, I would say it's not necessarily us sacrificing our calling, but it's like what we thought our calling was going to be like. Because it's like He still has a call in your life.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's just like, oh, Lord, I have to lay down my expectation of what I thought that was going to look like. Because, like, you're going to give me something better. And it might still be that. Like, for you, it might still be passion. It might look like something completely different, though. It might look like a different context. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. That's powerful.
The way I see it is, like, God's given us fruit, and then, like, when the fruit dies, it turns into a seed. And God's saying, like, okay, let it die. And I'm going to make it way bigger than just your little orange you just had.
Wow, that's
It's going to be an orange tree now.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, you know what I mean? Or a banana tree, or like corn and, like, into the field.
Yeah.
Like, it turns into a seed. And
Yeah.
that seed, if you give it to God, after He crushes it, becomes way more bigger than what you expected it to be.
Yeah. And the Bible says, like, He withholds no good thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, if He's telling you to lay it down, it's like, He's not withholding something good from you. Like, if you're laying it down, it's because He still has good for you. And what you thought it was going to be might not have been good, but He's like, no, I have good for you. So, like, lay it down.
By the way, like, His good is way more than our good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We literally can't even fathom it. We just can't. Our minds, like, don't have the capacity to.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I think that's a great place to wrap it up.
I think so, too.
So, guys, I hope you liked this episode as much as we did.
This is fun.
Like, every time we do a new episode, most of the time it's whenever we have a guest, it becomes a new favorite episode. And
Definitely our favorite episode.
Yeah. So guys, if you like this episode, go ahead and rate this podcast.
5 stars only.
5 stars. As Dave Ramsey says, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
That's right.
So guys, but yeah, guys, if you like this podcast, give us a rating, whatever platform you're on. Follow us, subscribe, whatever platform. And guys, honestly, thank you for listening. And I hope you got something out of this. If you did, share it out on all your social medias.
That's right.
So that we can see, not that we can reach more people, but so this message can.
Yeah. That's good.
All right, guys. See you later.
Bye.